When you put in the hard work, you get to reap the benefits. And for a lot of players on this team, starting with Patrick Mahomes, rest is the benefit they're going to reap. What's it going to look like today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, folks. Hope that you and all of Chiefs Kingdom had a great Christmas. We're back on the grind talking about what comes next for the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you are still celebrating, we don't blame you a bit, but celebrate over at Game Time. This episode is brought to you by them. You can download the app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. That's going to get you $20 off of your first purchase at Game Time. Go check that out. We're going to go over the deeper details. Upon further review coming up later, we will get into what's out there that we need to keep in the back of our minds for the future. Then we are going to start really digging into just where is this team? Is this a peak? Is it on the rise? Where are they? That's coming up in a little bit. But we're going to start right at the top with what is this rest going to look like? He is Chris Clark with KC Chiefs Corner. You can find him there. Go get subbed over there. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. My site's NFL33.com, NRGRfootball.com are a little bit different and a little bit out there, so go check those out as well. We've been doing the show together for 8 years. If you just found us after a post game, well, it's been a very, very long time. So we do have other outlets. We appreciate if you check those out. You can get everything here on our text line at 816-357-8781 and get connected over there. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make another Locked On show your next one because we're free and available everywhere all the time, every day, and every possible concept. And that is for you, our locos. We appreciate you guys. Resting is the number one topic, right? How does it have to look for you?
First off, thank you all for listening, and I'm still shocked when you say 8 years because it doesn't feel like it's been 8 years. But in this Christmas season, thank you very much. We really do both very much appreciate it. Resting for me, you look at this and it's a matter of, okay, who can we get time off? And the big question, and I have to remember, and I don't remember which year it was, it had to have been, it was a couple of years ago. They were in a similar scenario. And the reality is you can't do what you want to do and rest everybody that is a starter. You just can't. NFL numbers don't allow it. So the question is who's going to play, where are they going to play, and how much are they going to play? And to me, it starts with, obviously, Patrick Mahomes is not playing in this game. I don't think you play him in this game. Even if he was 100% or close to 100%, like what we would call him, you wouldn't play him because of the ankle. To me, that's a no-brainer. Chris Jones obviously isn't going to play because of his injury, but he wouldn't have played anyway in my mind. Travis Kelce shouldn't play. DeAndre Hopkins shouldn't play. Then you start getting into questions on other guys. Do you play Hollywood Brown for 10 to 15 snaps for the simple thought process of he is coming back from an injury and still needs to get acclimated to the offense? Maybe. Do you play
Xavier Worthy good
Worthy?
without Patrick, though? That's the question, right?
Well, right, but he still needs the reps. He still needs the time. I mean, getting as much as I hate saying it this way, him getting hit is actually good for him, I think, for the playoffs, to prepare him for what it's going to be in the playoffs, because it's going to get faster, and he hasn't had enough reps in my mind. So to me, it all kind of goes into that. When you look at the rest of this, it's just a matter of you start looking at the offensive line. Creed Humphrey is going to probably play. Is he going to play center? Who knows? Last time they did this, he wasn't the center. He played guard. What are they going to do with Trey Smith? Are they going to move people around on the offensive line because they have some young guys they want to get in there? But the bigger question when it comes to who you're resting, you start getting into the veterans. Obviously, you want to have some guys, some of your stars not play. I get that. Have your young guys go. But then it comes down to who are you going to have lead the team? Because are you really going to want to put Carson Wentz out there with a backup offensive line and backup wide receivers to get him some snaps against the Denver defense? Or do you want to put Chris Oladokin out there and calling him up from the practice squad and go that direction and have Wentz be the backup?
I want Wentz out there. I want to crack that deal, give him some reps. You know, I know it's a backup line, but it's the guys that he practices with more often. So I don't think it's as big a thing there. You have to make sure that your game plan is still on point, though, because the pass rush is still real in Denver. It's not what you've faced the last couple of weeks, but it's still real. Benito can still get after you. So it's still about pacing. It's about getting the ball out, protecting the quarterback that way. The real question for me then is specifically to Wentz, how do you protect him? You run the ball more. But Kareem Hunt needs to rest as well, in my opinion. I would not play him. Pops is banged up with the ribs. I would not play him. So is it Carson? Are you bringing up practice squatters? Could you even make a signing? I don't want to see one Xavier Worthy in the backfield. That's all I know for absolutely certain.
Well, and I don't want to see Samaje Perine back there either, because while people are going to say he hasn't had that much of an impact because of the stats, if you just look at the stats, go look at the plays. He's had a huge impact. It's the plays. I don't care about the stats. Throw that out the door. It's when you make the plays that matter, especially when you start getting into the playoffs, and the ability he has to do different things on third down, pick up blockers as a pass blocker, all of those things you want. And to me, I don't want to risk him. He's been a kick returner. I think he's done okay as a kick returner. I'd put Carson Steele out there. I'd let Carson Steele run the ball 30 times.
You want to see Ingram? He's still on the practice squad. I'm just double checking the practice squad here.
Yeah,
I would pull him up.
Problem, though. How many people? You can only bring up 2 guys from the practice squad, so you're going to be limited to what you can really do. I mean, maybe you bring up a running back, but there's other positions you could bring up and do that with. You can make arguments for as well.
Absolutely. One of them was going to be Cup on the backup tight end, but that all allows the offensive stars to rest in the guys that you need to. There are defensive guys that have to rest as well. Chris isn't the only one. I wonder. I felt like George Karlaftis' game last week was maybe the best of the season. I don't want to ruin his rhythm, but I'd like his legs to be fresh. So that would be a debate for me. Mike Dana played a lot. Charles Omenihu obviously still on the comeback. I would rest Charles as well.
And I'd argue on that one.
Right?
I'm just saying I would argue on that because he's trying to get his legs back. So it goes both ways. Like, I understand he's coming back from an injury and like he's recovering. I get all that. But at the same time, kind of goes back to the Hollywood Brown situation. Do you want to have him be ready for the playoffs as much as you possibly can? Yeah, you risk it. I get that. But I agree with you. I mean, generally speaking, I wouldn't give him the amount of snaps he's gotten, but I think it would keep him fresher and get him more prepared if he played a little bit. So, have FAU go out there, have FAU out there. Give Uche, who hasn't been active, time.
Exactly. I think those should be your starting ends. If you give Charles 15 snaps, just like Hollywood, I'm fine with that because you're right. There is some benefit there. But you have to close your eyes and picture this team without either of them, and that's troublesome. So you have to really guard against that because anything could happen on any play, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the duality of the NFL. Is you want to have them ready as much as you possibly can, but all it takes is one bad snap, and it's
no risk it, no biscuit in the end.
That's true.
So to do all that, that means that you are still trying to put more work in. I think there's some eval that can go on as well. That's worth it. But it's all towards resting everyone so they can be fresh for first round of the playoffs, so they can hit the peak. What does that peak look like, and how far are they from it right now? That's coming up next. The atmosphere at Arrowhead is unique. There's nothing like it. Nowhere more in the world that you want to watch a ball game than right there from those seats. Finding those seats is always interesting. It makes it super easy to use Game Time. It's all in pricing, so you never get hit with anything strange. You don't get surprised at checkout. You get to see the view from every seat in the stadium, so you know exactly what that ball game is going to look like when you're sitting there. And they offer the lowest price guarantee. You find it cheaper somewhere else, they'll give you 110% of the difference right there on the spot. All you got to do is get the Game Time app. So go download it, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Again, all you got to do is create an account and use the code. It's LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $20 off. Go down that Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. I think peak is kind of a fun word, and you're going to see more about it on both of our personal sites, KC Chiefs Corner for Chris and NFL 33 for me. It piques my interest as well as to where you're going from there. We've been arguing, we've been complaining. I've been complaining loudly all season about you're not dominant enough. You have the ability to be much better than this. Why aren't you doing it? Well, they followed through with their plan, and they didn't want to show any of that. They didn't feel they needed to be dominant until right about now, working in through last weekend and this weekend. They are following their plan. And honestly, after back-to-back Super Bowls, can I really argue with it? Probably not. But it's about timing, right?
I would argue with you, actually. I don't know that they really have had the ability to do what they've done the past 2 weeks. And I say that because I really do think Hollywood Brown is a bigger piece to this puzzle than anybody really ever thought he was. Like, you go back and you watch him being in this offense, and it's not just how he can run routes. It's not how he gets open. You can tell Mahomes trusts him, and yes, they're not still on the same page 100% yet. I don't know that they'll even get there in the playoffs, which stinks, and that I hate. But at the same time, bringing him into this offense allows Xavier Worthy to do things that he hasn't been really able to do most of the season. And what I mean by that is he's playing a different position now. He's getting to be the third guy. He's getting, better looks. He's not going to be going up against people, and they're not going to be game planning against him to the extent that they will with Hollywood Brown on the field. So to me, I think that you look at this offense and it's completely different than it was a month ago, because you now have Hollywood Brown and he changes what this offense is going to be able to do. And the one thing I will say, and I've already said this on the show multiple times, but I'll say it again. I'm obviously I'm not happy about the injuries. Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice obviously don't want injuries. I get all that. But the bonus of those injuries is that it gave Xavier Worthy the ability to step up and get into a situation where he could become the player he is now. I'm not saying that he is fantastic and he's a world beater by any means. He has a lot of rookie things that he's got to work on, and he will be better in the next couple of years. I understand all that. But he got chances this year that he wouldn't have got if you have Rashee Rice, if you have Hollywood Brown the entire season. And that is going to pay dividends in the playoffs. It's already started to pay dividends the past couple of weeks because he's being targeted a lot and he's doing the small things. Don't forget, I'm trying to remember I think it was the Texans game. He sits in a zone, realizes that he's sitting in a zone by himself, and attacks the ball, not just waiting for the ball. If he waited for the ball, maybe it gets knocked out. He attacked the ball. That seems like a small thing, but it's the details that make the difference in this game so much. And learning that early on is huge.
Yeah, it's about being a professional. And I'll even go a step farther for you. Without the injuries, there is no D-Hop on this team. And it does seem that there's a connection there. There's a pushing there. There's a mentor-mentee relationship there, as we found out in the last week.
I love that too.
Yeah, and that stuff would not happen. And no offense to Rashee. Rashee's not in a position to be a mentor. He's a guy who's been there before, sure, showing the ropes, but he's no all-pro DeAndre Hopkins. So the net benefit is higher, right? Yeah. So I hate to say it, but things maybe couldn't have gone better for Xavier Worthy. So, and his, I think, is probably the prime example of how this team's been on the rise offensively, right? It is about the protection. Kudos to Joe Thuney. He's done better than I ever expected him to. Do I think that he should stay at left if DJ Humphries is ready to go at left tackle? Probably not. But he's done an admirable job, and that has allowed everything, I feel, with the return of Hollywood to really expand. And all of a sudden we see what this offense could have been all season long, and it's just getting going. To your point, I don't think they're near their peak yet. I think they still have a couple of rungs that they can still climb on this ladder to be optimum. And I'm not just talking about the offense. I think the defense can too. They are still coming on as well. What this last pass rush attempt was, I think, was a build upon, especially without Chris. I think that feeds into everybody's confidence come playoffs as well.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the pass rush, but I have one other point on the wide receivers. Not only does Hollywood back being open up Worthy, it also opens up Watson to do more of what he is the type of guy to do. And Juju. Let's not forget, let's not take away from Juju. Juju has a role in this offense, and I guarantee you it's going to be bigger in the playoffs than what we've seen. And he was the lead blocker on a screen to Travis Kelce against his former team. You're telling me that was designed to get him involved? Andy Reid knows what he's doing, and I love what they have in the wide receiver room, because all these wide receivers can do different things, and they can do them very well. And you can put them in the right positions to get this offense going in a different direction and going even better. So I agree, they're not peaked yet. I think they're still going to be going up in the playoffs. When you start looking at the defensive side, you start looking at the pass rush. What you saw from George Karlaftis, obviously he's been the guy on the other side of Chris most of the time that has always been pushing the passer. Dana getting 2 sacks is huge. That's got to mean a lot for this defensive line. And then you look at what Charles Omenihu is doing. He doesn't have the explosion that he had last year because he's still coming back from injury, but he is still showing pressure. He's still showing the ability to get after the passer and affect the passer. And that's all that really matters when you start getting into the playoffs. And all the pass rush is everything you need because it's just going to get tougher from here. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have an all-pro, and I don't want to say all-pro, but a very, very good wide receiver in George Pickens. They have another good wide receiver in Calvin Austin, although he's not the same level as some of what you'll be facing in the playoffs. But those are the types of offenses that you're going to be facing. They did it well against Houston as well, and they're going to have another test against Denver, although it's going to be guys that probably won't be playing in the playoffs near as much. But all the experience that those young guys get, prep them for if they have to step on the field in the playoffs, and that's just about as important.
It absolutely is because they sharpen the guys that will be playing in those playoff teams. And it's funny because Omenihu ends the day with 6 pressures. Watching it live was a quieter day than those stats reply for me in my initial takeaway. But it's also key that he's producing that as he's getting more. I went back and looked at his pass rush snaps specifically, not overall snaps, but pass rush snaps. And it hovered right above 20 for the first 3 weeks, then 28 against Houston, and then 33 pass rush snaps against the Steelers. And that is the rise that needs to happen as well. Rest Chris, get him back. Charles is rounding into shape. Just don't want to overdo it too far on a game that really is, no offense, meaningless. So make sure that he's in, he's out, in my opinion.
And guess who came back to rush the passer this week? The return of Leo Chenal.
4? Yeah.
The return of Leo Chenal. I mean, Wharton had a good game, don't get me wrong, but Leo Chenal has a win rate that's pretty high. FAU had a good win rate with very limited pass rush snaps. I mean, you saw what you needed to see from this group this week, and I think that that's got to be encouraging because they now know that they can get after the passer even if they don't have Chris Jones out there, and that, I think, gives them confidence going forward.
Yeah. I want to see a couple of guys that need to step into more roles. We're going to talk about them coming up next. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, and that's right, free online courses right now, including Introduction to Free Market Economics. You can check out some history with the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and even check out The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever you want, you can tune in whenever you want, and you can finish whenever you want. You can go deeper with readings and quizzes and discussions, or just sit back and enjoy the lectures. Go over to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. It's at hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. This segued just about perfectly for me because there's one guy that I do want to talk about, and it does tie into the defensive line. But please, like, sub, hit the bell. We would appreciate that. Check out KC Chiefs Corner and NFL 33 and RGR Football because we do have a little bit of extra time here. And so there's going to be a little bit of theorizing, at least on my part. 8 pass rush snaps on, I believe it was 8 pass snaps total for Marlon Tuipulotu. And this is critical, I think, with Chris out. Mike Pennell got hurt and came back into that game. You got to rest him this week. Derek Notty's been playing hurt all season. I think you probably got to give him a break. I think Marlon should start this game against the Broncos myself. You've been holding him all year long. You barely let him out of the gate here. Give him a start. Let him play a quarter with some of the guys that are going to be playing a lot of snaps in there, and then start rotating because I think you got to protect Turk Wharton, who's put in some good snaps as well. There's not enough defensive tackle-specific depth on this team to really, I think, extend any of those 3 guys with Chris out.
Yeah, it's tough. And that goes back to what I said before is you can only call up so many players. And, I want to stay on defensive line, but I want to say this before I forget it. The other guy that I would consider not doing his regular duties is Harrison Butker. Have Justin Reed go do kickoffs. Have Justin Reed do field goals. Just have it happen in this game. Give Butker the game off. You don't have to have Reed out there as a safety. Have him out there just as your kicker. Give Butker the game off. He's still going down to one knee when he kicks. I don't think that I feel great about that, and you're going to need him in the playoffs. When you look at the defensive line, though, it goes back to what we talked about on the offensive line. It goes back to every single same position. You don't have enough guys that you can bring up that are not going to be more than just rotational guys. That's the problem. I mean, you can have, Marlon go out there and start and play pretty much the entire game, but he can't play every single snap.
No, absolutely.
Defense. Well, and I'm not saying you were saying that. I'm just saying defensive linemen don't play every snap. Max Crosby is an anomaly. He is one of the only guys in the NFL that plays almost every single snap. So to me, this is just a situation where you've got to figure out, okay, we're going to put him in this situation. Maybe Marlon goes and plays 80% of the snaps, and you throw in a combination of Turk Wharton and Derek Naughty for your other ones. I'm going to be really curious to see how they rotate their defensive line this week, but I'm also going to be curious to see who they bring up on the practice squad, because with two guys, I think one of them is already gone. I think you have to use Oladokin in this game. I don't think you can have Patrick Mahomes be even your backup quarterback. I don't think you want to be in that situation. So I think you only have really one practice squad guy you can call up. And is it going to be running back? Is it going to be offensive line, defensive line, corner? What position are you going to go? There's lots of different questions to go through on this one.
There certainly are.
Glad I don't have to make that call.
Right? And some guys that stood out to me that I think do deserve more reps, obviously can't start, is Keith Taylor, who's already on, don't have to do an elevation there. I thought he came in. I thought he played some physicality. I didn't think he really exposed himself too much. I got to look. He was targeted, I believe. It was 2 for 2 for 13 yards. Okay, great. But got his feet wet. Maybe you want to give Joshua the week off. Maybe you want to rest him. I think Najee's still working in, didn't play a ton of snaps in this particular game. You can let him be out there. I think it was 23 snaps for him. I do want to see a little bit more. Deion Bush was an elevation, but again, made a play, guy on the spot. Does he really need reps? I'm not so sure. I think he could probably get a secondary role done without getting a ton of playing time. So that leaves Hicks out there with Cook, and I do like that combination.
Well, and that's if Cook is somebody that they play. I mean, Shamari Connor will likely be back for this game, I would imagine, and they may go with those two and go with Hicks and Connor and see how that goes. Because the reality is Connor's played a lot of slot corner this year. I would like to see him get a chance to play the safety role, and this gives him that chance to play that safety role. I mean, you have 4 guys that can rotate through and do different things. You don't have a strict free safety, so to speak, but you have guys that can play in a lot of different roles at safety. So give Connor that chance if he's able to come back from his concussion. If he's not able to come back from his concussion, then I think you have to bring up Bush, because I don't think you want to go in a situation where you only have 2 safeties and Reed active, and I don't think you want Reed out there. I want to see a lot more CRW this week. Give him on the opposite side of Taylor and just figure out what you have there. Obviously, the linebacker position is going to be tough too, because again, it's a numbers game. We just don't have the numbers in this game, and that's what really stinks for Kansas City.
I'm gonna need my guy Cam out there a little bit, though. I'm just saying, Cam's earned some defensive snaps, and I will say this too, Chris Rowland-Wallace, you are absolutely correct. 100% with you. Not only was one of the best coverage grades this week, he was like the number 3 run stop grade, because he was throwing his body all over. He's worked out through the season. He's actually, I think he looks like he's playing heavier than he did earlier in the year. I think that's helping him survive. He's playing in run support. I think he should be a guy that goes whistle to whistle.
I'd love to see it, because he needs the snaps. And to be clear, I'm not trying to say he's played bad, but he's a rookie. He needs to have a chance to go learn from mistakes. And this is a game where it doesn't matter. This is the perfect game for all your young guys to go get as many snaps as they possibly can, because it simply doesn't matter what happens in this game. All you want is to get out of Denver as healthy as you possibly can. You don't care about the results. Go play, go do what you want to do. Have them take chances. If they want to take chances, with hits and with trying to get interceptions or turnovers or whatever, or throws, have them take chances. See what they can do. I'm all for that. Go play and go try to win the game as the best you can. But no, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. All you're trying to do is get out of there healthy, and all you're really trying to do is get all your young guys as many reps as they can possibly have to be ready for anything that they'd be called to do in the playoffs.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I guarantee injuries are going to happen in the divisional game, in the AFC Championship game, or in the Super Bowl. You're going to have more injuries. It sucks about football.
Yeah, but it's part of the game, though, and that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
I need more time to get my head around how this is going to turn into the next couple of weeks. So do not go away. We will have content for you all week long. We know that it's a fresh little relaxation, and it's not exactly the normal game that you're expecting, but it is going to be critical. Broncos are fighting to stay in the playoffs. As it stands absolutely right now, wild card weekend, Denver at number 7 currently would play Buffalo. Denver's defense is pretty solid. If anybody's going to give them a run, it might be Denver. So let's hope that they can sustain and get themselves in there, because they're tied with the other AFC West team, the Chargers. And I know a lot of people gave me static early in the season when I said, hey, this division could produce 3 playoff teams. Well, as of right now, they are. And it's the only division. The AFC East is nothing. It's Buffalo and a bunch of maybes. No one else is even breathing the playoffs from them.
Well, and I actually talked about this on the NFL show. One of the things that really stands out to me about this game specifically, or about the Broncos going up against Buffalo, is you're in a situation where Buffalo doesn't have a defense. They haven't had a defense. That's a big problem for them. And really, the game that we were talking about was Cincinnati versus Denver, which goes on this weekend. And that could play into who gets the playoff seeding. If Cincinnati wins, they have a chance to make it. If the Chiefs find a way to beat Denver in week 18, which I don't see happening, but crazier things have happened. So I would agree with you. I would love to see a situation where Denver have a chance to play Buffalo. And the interesting part about that would be that the Chiefs would essentially be guaranteed to play Denver a third time in about a 4-week stretch, a third time this season. And I wouldn't feel bad about it, because generally speaking, if you play a team 3 times, you may only beat them twice. This game that's coming up isn't really going to matter. Playing them in the playoffs, I think Kansas City could handle them with a full staff or full complement of their players, and they'll be healthy by the time that game kicks off.
Yeah, I agree with you. At this point, the way that would work, folks, is that the rounds reset after the wild card, and the Chiefs will play the lowest seed remaining. So if wild cards all get washed out, right now it's Houston. You're hoping, I think, that everything works out over the next couple of weeks, that you can maintain what we have right now, and that is Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, because in that divisional round, you get the lowest seed remaining, and the Bills and the Ravens have to play each other. And I think that is a recipe for a road to a Super Bowl. So let's hope that that's the way that it worked out. We'll talk more about that come Monday as we get through and see what happens this weekend. Please make sure that you like, sub, and stay with us. Give us your thoughts down in the comments below, and get ready. It is going to be another fun week as we get ready for the last regular season game, as the Chiefs look for that first round bye and getting ready for their first playoff opponent. Thank you for being with us. We very much appreciate everything you guys have done. Merry Christmas to you. I'm glad that you guys all had a good one. We will be back before New Year's, so make sure that you join us. Thanks for spending your time with us today.